All right. Oh, official. Did everybody hear that?
I did.
Yeah, it said recording in progress. Okay, well, welcome you guys. I'm really excited you're here. What I'm going to do is go ahead and share my screen. I have a presentation to walk through, and then we have some things that we're going to share. We'll share the presentation afterwards. So, I mean, you're welcome to take notes if you want, but we'll have that for you guys. And then also we have a fact sheet that's kind of a quick overview of the program that we're going to be sharing for reflections, at least. So just wanted to let you know, those are both going to come to you guys after this session. So, and I'll probably post the recording on the SMAC PTA website as well. And I'm going to kind of show you, hopefully I can get that to share as well. And I can show you some of the resources there, but just wanted to let you know about that. So let me go ahead and share the screen. And now you have, well, actually, since we're here, can you guys see the website?
Yep.
It's a little bit messy. So this is, just before I get started, I'm just going to show you real quick. So the URL is smac-pta.org. And this is the reflections page here. Up at the top are the tabs, and then citizenship is right here. So what's great about the website is, and I think some of you guys probably clicked to even let us know you were chairing. We have a ton of resources here on the website. So a lot of the things that we're going to talk about, we've got one slide about resources, are going to be at this spot. So once you check into this, it's a great idea to go ahead and bookmark it, because we'll do, for the most part, this is all updated for this year, but we're also going to be using it during the year to update things. And it's the same thing with citizenship. And you can also see some of the things like last year's winners, and the district results are still posted from last year, all the key dates, and again, all the resources. So want to make sure you guys got a quick look at that. Now I'm going to start the PowerPoint, and let me know if this is showing in your screen. Okay. Is that, can you see
See it.
okay. Is it all visible on your screen, or is there something over it?
Part of citizenship is gone, but
Okay, here, is that better? Can you see it now?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So again, welcome. We'll get started. We're going to go ahead and dive in. So first, we'll just kind of cover who's here. And I think we've met most of you guys just in some of the small talk earlier. But my name is Lori Stanziola. I've been the reflections chair for how many years? Like 4 or 5, something like that?
I think at least 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Becky's been there 2 of them, right, Becky?
Yeah. So I've been doing that, and Becky's been on board for a couple of years, which is great. And then Wright has been. Oops. Could somebody mute that's got kids in the background? Thanks. So Dee has been doing this even longer. She's our resident expert, and she chairs the citizenship program as well. So and we've got our contact information on the fact sheet that you're going to get after the meeting. And you're also going to get some emails from us, so you will get to know us a little bit during the year. So what we're going to cover tonight is an overview of both the citizenship and reflections programs. We're going to go kind of do something new and just cover both at once. I know some of you guys might be doing both, some only one, but I think it's still a great use of your time to hear about each. We'll cover getting started and kind of what the basics are. How many of you guys are, I don't know if there's a good way for me to see this, but maybe, are you guys able to access the comments section?
Under view options.
I think it's the chat at the bottom.
Yeah, there should be a chat area.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah, and if you guys could, yeah, okay, so I'm seeing a couple people are new to reflections or citizenship, so that's just helpful to know. We'll talk about some things, getting information, student recognition, and then we'll have some time at the end for detailed questions, although this is pretty cash. I mean, if there's something that you want to throw into the chat box as a question, I think Becky and Dee and I can try to cover that during the presentation. So, and I also wanted to point out on the right-hand side, this is this piece called Unmask My Truth by Destiny and Shawnee Mission Northwest was a National Award of Merit winner last year. It's a really powerful piece, and it also was chosen in a diversity and inclusion showcase that the National PTA ran. So tried to kind of get one of our newer pieces in there so you could
That's
see some of
nice.
the great stuff that students are doing. Okay, this is just a high level quick overview of the two programs, just so you can kind of see how they fit together for your school. We'll go into the steps later on when we get into more detail, but basically Reflections is the one that kicks off now. And then we wait till about November 1st to kick off Citizenship. So by the time Reflections is, you get all the Reflections works from students, you'll have time to kind of process that and then kick off Citizenship after that. So just to let you know, they are both, coming up, but they're not completely overlapping.
Who judges?
Well, we can get into that. I actually have, I'll cover that
Okay.
as
can
we get into the specific details, but that's an excellent question. And it's probably the thing, if you've had kids doing Reflections or Citizenship, that's the new thing for you as a chair is the judging. So
Lori, may I just add something to that back there? Those are all suggested dates. Those the hard deadlines are the ones where they have to be turned into state. But like if you have a those dates, if you can't start November 1st for Citizenship, that's okay. If you can adjust those dates so long as you get it to the district on time. Sorry, I didn't mean to say
yeah,
state.
no, good ad.
Oh, I was asking because my daughter, she won last year and she's like, if you're judging now, I can't win. And she was like all
Oh.
upset about it.
Don't let her think that. You will not be judging her work.
Oh, okay.
Not a problem. Okay, so let me get into just a little bit more detail. And again, Dee and Becky, if I miss something, please feel free to chime in. Just as a quick overview, what Reflections is Reflections actually ladders up through the national PTA. So it is a national program, and it was started back in 1969. So it's got a great tradition. This number, 10 million participants, is probably way low now because it grows every year. And that was a couple years ago, but it's just got a lot of participants, a lot of kids go through this program. What it does is it really supplements arts in the school, and when we say arts, we mean it from a broad level. When you see the different categories, it's not just visual art, it's a lot of other kinds of arts, but that whole creativity, it really encourages that and complements what kids are doing in school. And then each year the theme changes, and this year the theme is I Will Change the World By. And I think that's a really great inspirational theme, and you'll see that there's even some kind of similarity to Citizenship, and I think that'll be kind of a fun thing to see what the kids do with it. Reflections starts at the pre-K level. We haven't quite gotten pre-Kers involved yet. With the youngest we've had our kindergarten, but I am in talks with the parents as teachers, so you never know, we might get a pre-K thing going someday. But it does go all the way up through senior year in high school. And then kind of in contrast, Citizenship is actually a signature Kansas program. So it does not have a national level. but it was developed in Kansas for students. And the focus on citizenship is really a writing contest. In fact, we recently rebranded Citizenship and we're calling it a writing program because that's kind of the focus. And what it does, it really gives the kids an opportunity to think about citizenship in the broad sense of what that means. And again, each year has a theme. And this year, oops, I have a little typo, but I will make the world a better place by is our theme. And actually, Kristen Barnes is online and her daughter was one of our Award of Excellence winners last year. And she is the one who came up with our theme this year. So that's pretty exciting. Yay. And this one is, because it is writing, it starts at grade 5 and goes through senior year in high school. The other new wrinkle is that in the past, we've had kind of a citizenship general direction as far as materials, but this year we have added art, theme art to the citizenship program. So that's kind of a fun new thing, and it'll help you promote the citizenship program in the school a little bit. So why do these contests? So the key is that they provide some tremendous opportunities for the kids. Self-expression and exploration, really a chance to kind of think deeply about their point of view and what they think about the theme, using that as a starting point. It can provide access to the arts. Sometimes there's kids who are really into the arts don't have that opportunity as much during the school day. And this can really complement that and give them a chance to dig a little deeper. Creativity and outlet for creativity. It gives creative kids a chance for recognition. We're great about recognizing sports teams and academics and things like that, but this is one great opportunity to recognize creativity and creative kids. And then just student engagement success. There are a lot of statistics out there, but basically when kids get involved and do things outside of school like this, their grades go up, they're more engaged, and they just tend to do better in school. So it's really a worthwhile program from a lot of different aspects. And I say it, I mean really both of the programs. So let's do a little more of a deep dive into reflections. The art categories, like I was saying, they are pretty broad. So it's not just visual art, it includes film production. And that sounds really daunting for kids to be doing films, producing films. But if you think about it, you know, we've all got a video camera on our phone now. And a lot of kids are really getting into expressing themselves through this media. So it probably won't be your biggest category, but it's a great one if you can support it to have available to kids. We've had every level from, like, you know, K through second grade all the way up through high school participate in film production.
Some of them have been also like slideshow kind of edited with voiceover and that kind of thing. It doesn't all have to be motion picture.
Yeah. Literature is another one, and it's really the creative writing based on the theme. There's dance choreography, and those are videos, but that's a really interesting media to see, and a lot of kids are very expressive with their dance. Music composition, and it's really about the creating of the work of music. Not so much the performing. In fact, they can have it performed by other people if they want. And for the most part, they perform their own music, but it's really the composition that's honored in this contest. Photography and visual arts, which you might expect more. And then the special artist category, where we allow kids of all abilities to participate in a separate category that really gives them the right kind of competition for them. And then if you look at the divisions, these are kind of the groupings and how the judging works. So You've got that primary level through second grade, intermediate, third through fifth grade. Now, middle school is a little tricky for us. We have middle school in seventh and eighth grade, but in reflections, it's actually sixth, seventh, and eighth. So if you are a elementary school chair, you will have 3 different categories. Your sixth graders would be in the middle school category. That was something I had to learn the first year. I didn't realize that. And then, of course, high school and the special artists division. Any questions about the categories or any of that?
Can they submit an iMovie from their, like if they have an iPhone for film production?
We have certain file formats, and those are going to be on the entry form. So, and also on the website, we have the rules, kind of rules and guidelines for reflections. So it really comes down to the type of file. They can create it on iMovie. They just have to export it in the right file format.
Okay.
On the breakdowns with the middle school and middle school 6th through 8th, if
Yeah.
if the grade schools have 6th graders, you could end up having a 6th grader win, and then the middle school would then a different school would send 7th and 8th.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So in your case, you were going to have 2 sets of middle school
Okay.
entries.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. So just a few notes about getting started. Again, to the right, I have a little bit of a dated, but you saw the most recent website. So really, that's a really good place to get started. Make sure you kind of are familiar with what's there. There's also a local leaders guide that can be a really great resource to getting started and kind of getting your mind around what's has to be done. You can form a committee. A lot of times that's helpful. You might be able to get somebody to help out. And then if things get overwhelming, or if you want to take on some things in addition, you would have some help with that. One thing I kind of covered the SMAC website and reviewing the materials, but unit in good standing. One of the things we unfortunately have to do for PTA is make sure that your schools are kind of up to speed on paying their dues and that kind of thing. And so there are a couple of things on the entry form that you have to fill out. You'll have to consult with either your PTA treasurer or president. It's things like rules, bylaws approval, and dues. And unfortunately, we can't really take those out of there, but just wanted to kind of give you a heads up. But if you run into any trouble with that, we're not going to let any kid not be able to do reflections or citizenship because of that. We'll make sure that we just figure out how to get that done. But I did want to kind of give you a heads up that that's one of the wrinkles on the, and that would be something that you would supply in the entry forms. There's a few things that you'll supply before they even go to the kids. And that would be one of those. Although you don't have to do it before you hand them out, you can always do it later. It's as long as I have it when I get the entry forms. And then some of you, I think quite a few of you are on Facebook, the Facebook group, and every once in a while we'll throw something up there, a reminder or info. So, and that's also something where it's kind of a nice organic place to come up with kind of brainstorm ideas. Like if you have an idea for prizes, let's say, and you want to see what other schools have done, you can just throw that question out on the Facebook group. And it's a nice closed group that, will be good to bounce ideas off of. And then the other thing is Becky and I and Dee will all occasionally email you guys. So one of the things that we try to do is really kind of create a master email list just to make sure that we're kind of sharing information and reminders at the same time. So I think we have all of your, obviously, it's really just an email address we need for that. So I think we're in pretty good shape with the folks who are online here, but that's just something that we'll use to kind of communicate going forward. And then here I'll go into a little more detail on the key dates. So now through October 15th, and as Dee mentioned, that October 15th is a suggested deadline, local deadline, in order to give you enough time to do the judging and do everything that you need to meet the next deadline that you have, which is to turn the work into us. So you can play with that a little bit, and we'll talk a minute about your planning process, but that's kind of maybe a starting point for you to think about. I think that's a Friday too. I can't remember for sure. But basically now through then, what you're doing is you're promoting the contest, you're getting the entry forms available. Toward the end of that, you'll be collecting the entries from the kids. And then one thing that we really ask you to do, and I have a slide on the entry form, but we are asking you to kind of make sure you look over the forms and see that everything's there, that parents have signed them and all that good stuff. We're really relying on you guys to kind of check the quality on that. The next time frame is when you have all the work. That's where you'll be organizing entries. And again, it'll be by media. So whether it's visual art or literature or dance, so you organize it that way, and then also organize it by age group, especially if you have elementary as you've got 3 different age groups for elementary, 1 for middle school and 1 for high school. And then we'll talk about judging, but that's when you distribute the work to the judges. And then any kind of school, after you get the judging back for your school, any kind of recognition you want to run within your school, this is a good time to do it, although you could even do that later in the year. I know some people do some of that in a like end of school award contest or a award ceremony and things like that. But this is another possibility, kind of while it's all fresh. Then the next set of dates is where you guys turn in your winners to council. And this is SMAC, you'll see SMAC PTA and that kind of thing. That's called Shawnee Mission Area Council. So that's kind of a PTA way of saying our school district. So all we need is the very top winner in each category and each age group. So we need your #1 primary dance video and elementary dance video or intermediate dance video, etc. Sometimes you won't have entries in certain categories. That's fine. It's just sometimes you might have 1 entry in a category, and that's fine too. That would automatically win that division and be submitted to the district. So that we will, closer to the date, we'll be arranging a drop off or kind of a digital handoff of the award-winning work. And then that's when we spring into action, Becky and I for reflections and Dee for citizenship, and we do the judging at that level. And then there's a field service representative note in here, and that's really more for this state level. So the council judging is really all you need to worry about. And then finally, the state deadline is our responsibility. And that's when all the winners at the district level across all schools are submitted to the state level for that judging. And that gets judged and the winners are announced in March. So it's kind of slowly navigates the entire year. But in the spring, then we'll have a student recognition and reception for citizenship and reflections winners. So that's a lot of key dates. Any other questions before I go on?
So just to be clear, we give the top winners to you on about November 6th.
Yes. And what we'll do is we'll via email, we'll set up a time and place to drop it off. And also we'll be sharing a Google Drive location to upload files for that handoff. Anything else? Okay. So student entry form, I actually have a whole slide for this, and I may skip over it a little bit, but because you are going to get this. But the key is that the entry form is where you have the official rules, and you can understand like what file formats are acceptable for what media. So for music, there's certain audio formats. One thing to keep in mind is that music is an audio only format. I have received some videos for music, and those are not okay. And it's difficult to extract the audio file from a video, and it would be better to push back at the kid level and have them submit the correct file. So I did want to throw that out. Is that clear what I'm saying? So I think it's a WAV file. And again, I've people take a picture of or take a video of their kids singing or something, and that is not acceptable. It's really just the audio file of the song. So another thing really is just to make sure the kids that you take a minute with the entry form and customize it for your school. So I wonder if I should. Well, I think when you see it, it'll make sense. There's an area that's for the school use, and that's where you would put your contact information and your school and those PTA dates I talked about, and just some things that are going to be consistent across every entry form in your school. It's great to get those filled out before you hand it out to kids, and then they've kind of got all that, and they're not trying to figure out what that is. Another thing I want to mention is each entry form has an artist statement, and we have occasionally had kids leave that blank thinking, oh, well, I did this photograph and it kind of speaks for itself. One of the things you need to know is in the judging, we're really judging on the thinking of the student with their creative process. And so that artist statement is absolutely mandatory. We will not really accept an entry form without an artist statement, because we need to understand what the thought process is behind the work. So that's just something to emphasize. And then of course, legibility and accuracy, and email addresses are so tricky. If there's any way to type some of this stuff, that would be helpful. Just making sure things are readable and minimize the need to go back. And really what I'm talking about is just the work that gets passed on to the district level. So it's really your winners in each category, just making sure you go over those entry forms with a fine tooth comb. And then finally, oh, sorry.
All I was going to add was it's really important to make sure that you get contact information for the parent and not the child. A lot of times, a lot of times they'll put in their school email address, so they'll put their cell phone number, and then you're trying to get in touch with them, and you'll get in touch with a parent. A parent's they hear that there's a winner, the parent is gonna call you back. So make sure that that's clear, that you do get that, a good cell phone number and a good email address for the parents.
Yeah, that's a great point. And then finally, it's actually not new this year, but last year it was new that we are encouraging you to digitally send us the entry forms, and know that a typed in signature from a parent is acceptable. So, because I know sometimes that's the trickiest things. We will have a fillable form. So it's a form where they can actually type in the information, and we'll accept just a name as a signature there. And that's a great way to get the information to be a little more accurate. I think I'm going to skip over the pro tips. I don't want to get into too much detail, but you're going to have this at the end of I guess the one thing I will mention though, is that a student might want to enter like a literature and a visual art entry, and they need to do a separate entry form for each. They can't, it's one form for every entry, not one per student. So. All right, now we'll hit on kind of the high level of citizenship, and Dee, please chime in. So the citizenship categories are poetry and essay. And again, and they're grades 5 through 12. So each grade is its own category. So there's 5th grade poetry and essay, 6th grade poetry and essay. So each of those are judged by grade level. Again, very similar to reflections, starting early, getting on the website, looking at materials. Dee also has a Facebook group that she chairs, and collaborating with other chairs is a great idea. And again, this will kick off, a month or a month and a half later than reflections. So there are the citizenship entry rules in the packet, but some of the highlights are that each of the work needs to be a new original piece of writing that relates to the theme. We are not looking for them to turn in their 6th grade essay that they did last year that doesn't relate to the theme. It really needs to be done as a result of the citizenship theme. And the work will be judged also by that as well, how relevant it is.
May I hop in here?
Yeah, please.
One of the things that is sometimes a problem is that the writer doesn't write to the theme. So if you can express that, that's very important, to be writing to the theme. And then the other one, the students that have English as a second language, that's a really good place. South, when they had the ELL teacher that was participating, they had a ton of entries. They loved entering the contest because they've never been able to do anything like that. Now, as far as translating, the teacher has always translated it and sent it over. I've never had to translate because I get everything from the district. I've never had to translate anything. So if that's if that's the teacher doesn't have time for that, we can handle that. I've never had that a problem yet in all the years. So I'm sure the teacher I guess they're the ones that are translating it for us. And it's a really good place to get some kids to join in on the writing. They really, really do. They're so proud of it to be able to communicate their thoughts. And another thing in poetry, it helps to sometimes if you market it, promote it as spoken word, or what's another word for it, Lori? I even put hip hop, to get the kids thinking outside of the box, that it doesn't always have to be a rhymey kind of thing. It's just as long as you're conveying the theme and you're within the amount of words, then you're pretty safe. Okay.
Yeah.
Done.
So again, key dates, kind of like reflections. Again, the beginning is promoting the contest. And one of the new things, like I said, is that theme art. So on the website, you'll have Instagram posts and Facebook post opportunities and things like that you can use. And I think do we have a citizenship flyer as well? I'm pretty sure we do. If we don't, we will on the website. We definitely have one for reflections, but we might need to add that. And we will have that.
I don't think we've ever had a flyer other than the banner that used to be with that flag.
Yeah, I think this year that is a great opportunity to have that. So you can put it in like the school newsletter or have it printed up and available to hand out to kids to promote the contest. So we'll make sure that we get that done before November. And again, this is the time period where you're collecting and checking the work. Then your judging time, again, I thought I had I have later I'll talk about judges. I promised you I would, and I was like, where is that? That's coming up. And then the council level, and then the state deadline again. So very similar to reflections as far as the drumbeat of activity. All right, so let me get to just a few more steps for success for both programs. Obviously, planning is one key thing. So as we talk about these dates, checking your school calendar, kind of looking at what's going on. Maybe October 15th isn't a good deadline because there's some big band concert that night or whatever. It's just really good to customize your plan to your school and just plan in reverse to the deadlines, just making sure that you can do that November 6th handoff for reflections. And I think it's January for citizenship. So really looking at those dates. You can determine which categories and divisions you want to provide. Most of the time it's great if you can include everything, but if you are new to this or feeling at all overwhelmed and want to limit the number of categories, that's perfectly acceptable, especially with reflections. But I will say for the most part, it kind of works out to have them all if you can. Again, downloading materials and customizing, printing out handouts and things like that. You have to determine where the best place to intercept kids and parents in your school is, and try to get the information in those venues. Again, if it's a digital newsletter, if it's a Facebook, school Facebook page, whatever it is that makes the most sense. If you can, a lot of times you'll have a little budget line item on your PTA, and that's great to give you a little bit of money to spend on either promoting the contest or even recognizing the kids at the end. So that's kind of the planning, and then promoting. I feel like I've talked about this a little bit, but these are just some ideas to think about: back to school events, social media, put posters, you can put local dance studios, you can put a call for entry. And there is a call for entry poster on the website for both citizenship and reflections. And again, some teachers love to be involved and promote it, or at least kind of encourage kids to participate. We have to be really, really sensitive to their workloads. So it's not something that teachers really, need to do. But if you have interested teachers, that's always a great way to get kids involved. Judging, finally getting to judging. So one of the things we recommend for both citizenship and reflections is trying to tap into judges who are somewhat local. Now I'm sorry, somewhat professional. So, and I say somewhat because obviously they don't need to be a visual artist, a fine artist to judge visual art, but just really looking at some of the folks in your parent community, in area colleges. Another thing that's great to do is even use the Facebook resource to suggest judges and maybe even share some judges. Like if someone's having trouble getting a dance judge, maybe there's another school that's got a dance instructor that's willing to do a couple of extra rounds of judging. So you really try to look for folks like that. Ideally, they can't be parents of any of the kids that are entering. So your question, Angela, about your daughter, it's like you need to get judges. You are not on the hook to do the judging. And then one of the things you'll do then when you get all the work is you organize it again by division and by media, and set that up for the reviewer. And there is a reviewer packet online that allows you to hand that piece of paper to a judge, and they can score the entries based on certain criteria. So it's called a rubric, and it's about creativity and about the theme, how well it relates to the theme, and I can't remember the other one, but there's kind of three core things that create the rating on each piece of work. You want to have the judging done blind, meaning that the student's name is not visible to the judges. And another thing is that there are no ties. So let's say two pieces get the same score. What breaks the tie is that a metric that really talks about how well they met the theme. So it's really the thinking that kind of takes priority, the thinking, the creative thinking, not so much the creative execution. And then of course, confidentiality, which kind of goes without saying, but you want to keep that judging confidential.
And then Lori, when you were talking about how important the artist statement is for reflections, that is weighted heavily in the scoring. It's actually weighted as heavy as the art. So you get the same amount of points for the art as you do as explaining what the art's about. So that's really an important part to have completed. And then as far as the writings, like the literature component of reflections and the citizenship, on the judging form that Lori is mentioning, I suggest using that form only for your finals. Like if you've got the final 10, and then you use that form for that, because you can very easily go through the writings and read. I usually suggest making like 3 piles. One, nope, it's missing. The other one is, oh, that's great. And then the other one, oh, this is pretty good. And then you go back through them again and it starts to weed out. And then you get your finals, and then you can take that judging form and then put the 5-point criteria to it. It just is easier that way.
How many submissions are we talking about
Well,
typically?
in citizenship, if a school gets behind it, like for example, Indian Hills, when Dr. Sherman was there, he made everybody participate, and you would get like 300, 75. All the teachers were, the writing teachers were participating. So you could get that, or you could just get one teacher decides to make it an assignment in middle school. A lot of times in 5th grade, 5th grade, I don't know what's the normal, there's 3 classes, what's 27, 30 kids per class. So if everyone participated and did an essay and a poem, usually they just pick one or the other. Every once in a while, there's a kid that'll do both, but generally a teacher will pick one or the other, poems or essays. So you could have quite a bit, but it's really not hard to go through. Like let's say you had 75, it's really not hard to go through them, because until you do it, you will know that there's just some that just shine, and you go in that pile, and there's others that are sort of, and then there's ones that are very weak. So the pile gets, the pile is, it gets narrowed down. That 75, let's say you have, could very easily get narrowed down to 20 and then 10 pretty quick. Because what happens a lot of times is the teacher, especially in the elementary, they'll discuss a little bit about it, and then pretty much the writings are almost all the same. And so, they just kind of sound the same. And that one writing that just pops out that took it the extra yard, that's what'll jump out. You'll see.
And then just to comment on reflections, because it's a little different animal, they usually do not assign any reflections pieces in the classes. So that's more done outside of school. And the big categories are going to be usually literature and visual art are the two where you get the most. I wouldn't think you'd get any more than 30 in either of those categories. And someone asked the question, Oh, good. Thank you, Kristen. If you're seeing in the chat that about a dozen 20 reflections a year and 6 to 10 citizenship. So it's not going to be overwhelming for judges. And someone asked, do you need to have a different judge for each category? I would say not necessarily. If you have someone who's visually, some kind of visual profession, you could often have them judge like the visual art and the photography for sure. You could combine those. You could also combine the film production with photography. That's another good combination. And a lot of times, like if you've got somebody who does advertising or, you know, kind of in one of those kind of creative fields, they're a good judge for those kind of more visual things. It's great for music to have somebody who kind of has some kind of a music background. Again, doesn't need to be a top pro or anything, but a lot of times there are folks who do some music on the side or, you know, do gigs or, you know, that kind of thing, who can be great. Classical is a great background as well. They're really great at, and we'll probably use primarily a classical judge at the district level, just because they're so, they understand scores and how to judge the music. Dance, if you can find a dance instructor or just a parent who's willing to do it, who really appreciates dance. I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be a pro, but it can be helpful. But none of those are going to be super heavy workloads for a judge. It's not yet like you're going to get hundreds of entries. It's going to be something they can do in a couple hours. Any other thoughts, Becky? Anything to add?
I'm not sure if you covered this, Lori, but it can be a judge can do multiple categories, you know, right? You may have mentioned that, but so someone might do photography and film, and they can do that.
Yeah.
There was another question too. I'm sorry, this kind of goes back to the packets for the chairs, but in that, is there identified where they get the flyer, the informational flyer to distribute, as well as the poster art?
Yeah, that is all on the SMAC website. So there's a button that says flyer and one that says poster, and then all the social media files. So those are easy to download from the website.
Okay.
I was just thinking though that we didn't have a flyer yet for citizenship, so we will be adding that.
And so we're responsible for getting the flyer, downloading it, or getting it printed ourselves. We
Yeah.
don't get like a stack of them.
No.
Okay.
And again, consider distributing it digitally within your school as well.
Oh.
If you have a school newsletter and you can talk to the secretary and have them add the flyer at the end of the newsletter, a lot of times that's a good way to
Yeah.
get it out there. And hard copies are great too. I mean, and a lot of times your PTA may have access to a school printer or something like that where you can get stuff printed out as well.
I have been doing this a lot of years, and I think the flyers are nice if you put them maybe around the kind of like the lunch area where the kids congregate, where they, you know, maybe in the line they can see them. But the digitally, when you send them to the teachers, and then they read about it to the kids, you've got the flyer, they can all see it. The kids now can see it digitally, you know, they can get the packet. Also.
Yeah, interesting. I had 2 students from Olathe who didn't even have a PTA. They just did some research and learned about the program and kind of figured out, and we had their families join the PTA and they were able to participate. So definitely got some kids with an incentive to an interest in participating. So that kind of blew me away. Let me just cover this next area, and that's about celebrating the entries. So once you have that judging, want to just mention a few things. First of all, honor as many kids as you can. I mean, if you can have a honorable mention or participation award, it's always great, because kids are going to extra effort to make these things happen. So anything you can do to honor that is great. Maybe it's a show within school, you know, like some kind of a show. I know that doesn't always work for some of the like dance and video stuff, but that's just a great way to recognize the kids. You can do announcements. Maybe there's a morning announcement that you can tie into, or some kind of a award or assembly. Sorry, my kids are so out of school, I can't remember the words anymore. Like a school assembly or something where you can kind of make a big deal about the kids who win the Reflections and Citizenship Awards.
Well, at the end of the year, Lori, at the end of the year awards assembly at the schools might be a good place for.
Yeah, we've had quite a few people say they do that there. We are going to have certificates and awards available on the website to download. Those are not quite out there yet, but we'll have some that you can download and print out. If you need any changes to anything and want to contact us, we could probably help you out with that as well. Again, displaying work. Another thing is virtually. Is there something you can do like on your school Instagram account or something, you know, have the winner's work visible there. School yearbook is another way that people have recognized Reflections and Citizenship, you know, done a group photo or put some things in the school yearbook. And again, social media.
And a good idea would be to make that contact now with your yearbook planner, so they make sure they block off a spot for you. It's usually just as easy as that.
And over there on the right, you kind of see some of the ribbons and things that we do at the district level. The medal is a beautiful award that kids get when they win the top prize at the district level. And there's also a special ceremony at the end of the year, which I didn't get into that too much, but we can kind of keep you posted on that. But that would be a place where all the top winners from each school are recognized by the Board of Education and the superintendent. And we don't know if that might have to be virtual again this year. It was last year, unfortunately, but we'll kind of see when we get closer to the time frame. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention though was prizes too. You know, you can award little prizes for the winners as well. So just talking a minute about advancing the work to the district level. Again, we need the first place in each category. And we're going to be sharing with you a G Drive, a Google Drive location for digital sharing, and we'll have a folder for each school. And that's where we would really encourage you guys to share the digital files with us if that's possible. If it's not, we don't want anyone to feel totally intimidated. If you're not, you know, if that feels a little overly tech, we'll figure out either how to help you through it, or we'll collect things physically. But it just really helps us a lot to have everything digitally if we can.
And Lori, last year, Citizenship, everything came, all the winners came to me by email. So that was absolutely no problem. I mean, I just had a couple that I needed to have a little bit more legible, but it was very successful.
Oh, good. Yeah. So, and then ideally, the entry forms are great to have digital, again, for readability also as well. And there are certain requirements. And again, you'll see that on the entry form, like musical scores, when they get to, I think it's middle school level, they actually have to have a printed score that shows the composition of their work. And that's a PDF file. Photography, it's great to have a digital file as well. And then some of the formats are already digital just by their nature. And then another note that Becky and I wanted to offer is that we do have a tip sheet on photographing artwork, kind of some ways to get the best image possible, because obviously we want all these entries to be shown in their best light. But if you need support on that, Becky and I are totally willing and able to help out with digitizing the visual art. And we're happy to do that. Especially on our winning entries that are going to be judged at the state level. Any questions about advancing the work? I know it's a ways off, so you'll have more time to ask questions as well then, but just trying to give you kind of a sense of what's involved. And then I mentioned student recognition, but at our level, at the state level, we'll do a spring reception. We've done receptions in the past. We don't know if that's going to be able to happen. We've had 2 years of drive-by receptions, which is still fun. But it's not quite as fun as a big gathering. But until the pandemic gives us the opportunity to gather, we're going to do what we need to do to make sure the kids get a chance to collect prizes and know that they're awesome. So, and then one of the things, again, I wanted to mention is that because Reflections does go to the national level, we've had some really wonderful recognition at the national level. In fact, last year we had 5 students from Shawnee Mission School District get recognized nationally. So that was pretty amazing, and just a testament to the quality of the creativity and the work that our kids are doing. So I know I talked for a long time, but I just wanted to open up to any other additional questions you guys have. And then you've got our contact information here too for any follow-up.
Did you say that Facebook had a special one for Reflections? Or was it just the Shawnee Mission?
Facebook has a what? I'm sorry, I didn't
Did
understand.
you say on Facebook you guys have a special thing for Reflections? Or is it just the SMAC?
There's 2 Facebook pages. One is for Reflections, one is for Citizenship.
Okay.
It's SMSD Reflections and SMSD Citizenship. There's a little bit more to it, but yes, there's 2 pages.
Okay.
So there, you'll see on the SMAC website, there's a join us on Facebook arrow, and that's how you get connected with the Facebook pages. So this one's the Citizenship one, and then there's one for Reflections as well. Maybe I will end our share. Okay. Anything else? I know it's a lot to take in, a lot of information. We got it done in an hour. Again, Becky and Dee and I are always available if you need any support of any kind, have any questions, run into any problems, or post it on Facebook, and a bunch of the other chairs probably will even answer it in a better way.
Thank
They're
you.
really good about sharing.
Okay.
Did you mention, Lori, that for each of the different categories, there are some rules that are laid out for the entries in those categories, length of writing and those kinds of things, and the scale or size of the artwork or that type of thing.
And
so each of the entries does have some rules that the kids need to be aware of when they're creating. So,
and those are listed when you download the official rules and student entry forms. Be sure you get familiar with the rules, because like Becky said, they kind of, especially Reflections has 6 different sets of rules because the medias are so different. So,
Well, and make sure the kids get to understand the rules too.
yeah.
there have been some times where people have won, a student has won, and then it doesn't really fit the rules. So we can't advance it any further, and we have to go back and pick a substitute or a second place. So
We don't want that to happen.
yeah, it's disappointing for everyone.
So Sam, you're asking, is it acceptable for us to digitize the entries? That is totally acceptable and encouraged, as long as you feel like you can represent the work effectively.
And kind of keep in mind when you do digitize the work that when it advances on to national, you want it to, Lori will probably catch it, Lori and Becky, and say, maybe get a better picture or something if it need be, because that's how like she said, you want it in its best light. So it could make or break a win if it isn't photographed properly.
And then Christy, you're asking about the entry form. There's a spot that says save the date on the entry form.
General
Oh,
due date.
is that maybe on the website? I'm trying to figure out where that is. Christy, if you're still there,
Was that for the open house or the?
I'm not sure.
That's usually what that's for,
I
isn't
think
it?
that was like December 7th, and that was for the virtual open house. Save the date for that so that that's when all of the district winners go up on the website. Was that it?
I bet that was what it was.
I think that's it.
And
Okay.
let me also, on the top of the entry form, it's a good idea for you to put the due date at the top. That's very helpful for the artist or the participant, that your due date, your local due date.
And you'll also be adding that to the flyer. So that flyer needs to have the due date as well.
Yeah. But then when they have it on top of the entry form, it's just,
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I saw a lot of the chairs did that, and I thought that was really nice.
All right, anything else? Thank you all for spending your time, both tonight, but also during the school year to make this program happen. It is such a rewarding thing for kids to do, and they can't do it without you guys. So we so appreciate what you're doing.
Yes, thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
All right, well, we'll keep in touch.
Go get that glass of wine, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.